into Roman Reigns, because we've heard a lot of questions and we haven't got a lot of answers to those questions when it comes to superstars like Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. I still am a really big Dean Ambrose fan, which is why I'm going to push forth with my endorsement for Dean Ambrose for the future with WWE. I'm not going to second guess myself and say, maybe I'm wrong with my assumption on Dean Ambrose and I should have went with Roman Reigns previously, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go back on my prediction. Now, it could go the way of somebody in this tournament coming from behind absolutely out of nowhere and blindsiding us, as the term is brought up a lot in professional wrestling, and when the tournament becomes champion, probably even Sheamus could cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. He's still in the tournament. He could wait till the end of the tournament after the individual who goes all the way to the finals and wins the tournament, wins 2 matches in one night at Survivor Series after competing in the semis and the finals of the tournament against whoever they have to face. Here comes Sheamus, the Great White, cashing in the briefcase for the first time after everybody's forgotten about the briefcase being held by Sheamus, giving him an opportunity to challenge for the championship anytime he wants because he's the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. At this time, for the last 365 days, he cashes in, becomes champion, and blindsides us with an outcome to Survivor Series we completely overlooked and allowed to be overshadowed by something else. So we can't forget Sheamus and that Money in the Bank briefcase variable, which is still looming over the head of whoever goes to the finals of the tournament. It could go either way. By the time you sum this all up, there's so many different directions the Survivor Series could go in, especially now with so many wrestlers being on the alleged DL. We have Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, John Cena's out with time away, allotted for him after losing the championship. Daniel Bryan retired. So many wrestlers on the DL right now, so it could go either way, just for an attempt for WWE to try to create something different. And I will say this, we really do need a reprieve after 226 days of Seth Rollins as champion. It was around that 226 days of Seth Rollins as champion. Frustrating to a lot of wrestling fans. I wouldn't blame you if you were frustrated by the 226-day reign we saw of Seth Rollins, near 230 days, one of the longest reigns we've seen since CM Punk held the title for 434 days. I believe actually technically that was the longest reign since Punk's reign of 434 days. So that says a lot. The longest reign of a WWE World Heavyweight Champion since the championship was actually unified with the WWE World title between the both of them, and everybody seemingly has held that title. Everyone from Randy Orton to Brock Lesnar, and Seth Rollins holds the claim for holding that title the longest. So we could see something different happen because of everything that's been derived in the fallout of WrestleMania 31, which was over 226 days ago. That's a long time. Doesn't seem like it, but it's a long time since WrestleMania, and we've only seen one champion crowned, and that was on the actual night that Triple H and Sting fought, and the triple threat match was deemed a controversial conclusion when Seth Rollins cashed in the briefcase on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar when we least expected him to do it. Seemingly the only one going into WrestleMania who thought that Seth Rollins could cash it in was me. I would venture to say there are more people out there that I haven't heard of who thought the same thing. But it was a controversial conclusion, which is why I say we need something different happening. Am I excited to see a 16-man single elimination tournament this year for Survivor Series? The answer to that question is obviously I'm not. For the competition factor, probably more so than seeing a 16-man single elimination tournament, but this is just an act of desperation on the part of the Director of Operations, CLO, whatever you want to call him, Triple H. It's just an act of desperation on the part of the authority because they realize there's nothing left to create ratings and boost the morale of professional wrestling. I have said time and time again that Triple H does not belong in the WWE, especially with a certain situation, with the current situation and status of professional wrestling. I don't think I'm wrong with having said what I have about Triple H in the past couple of months, especially after what they did to Sting and how they treated him in the fallout of WrestleMania 31. Nothing more than an act of desperation. So I'm excited for the competition aspect of this 16-man single elimination tournament for the first time in over 17 years, as I previously mentioned here on this video blog, which I will archive for you, by the way, on my YouTube channel at Jonathan Clarke 22. But I just think it's just something that's been slapped together, and you can tell that by the participants. Just look at some of these matches. We have seen Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz, Ryback versus Kalisto, Wade Barrett versus Neville. This tournament's really been slapped together. Didn't we see something like Wade Barrett versus Neville for this year's King of the Ring tournament exclusively on the network? So again, they're either repeating history or they're just slapping matches together for the sake of the tournament and crowning a champion because they realize there's somebody else to step in and fill the void Seth Rollins has currently left the company with. The status of WWE right now is not good with so many wrestlers on the DL, so it could go either way just to create a storyline and feuds in the fallout of Survivor Series, which, by the way, is the last big event of the year, one of the last 4 marquee pay-per-views of 2015. So they really got to do a do-or-die situation here, and they really got to put out for Survivor Series in the way of producing buy rates, pay-per-view ratings. Just controversy needs to happen here at this Survivor Series. This is a Survivor Series, ladies and gentlemen, that can't go without controversy. We've got to get people talking about this on social media because they want people talking about wrestling, but they don't want to talk about all the faults. You don't want to hear all the faults being discussed on social media. And right now, there are more faults than anything happening with wrestling. All the injuries we've seen from Randy Orton to Daniel Bryan in the last year and a half, it's really ridiculous, and in my opinion, something really needs to be done about it, and hopefully something will be done for the first time in what feels like forever for me and probably a lot of you at Survivor Series, no matter if Roman Reigns wins, Dean Ambrose wins, or someone completely different who we don't expect to win. And usually it's either someone who's in the finals of the tournament, if a tournament happens, that you don't expect to win. It's never the odds-on favorite. It wasn't with The Rock and Mankind. It wasn't with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels from Survivor Series of the last 15 years. So it's not going to be the same thing that happens this year. It's going to be pretty much someone who you least expect to happen rather than the odds-on favorite. It's either going to be Dean Ambrose who sells out, or it's going to be the Money in the Bank holder Sheamus, or somebody completely different who comes from out of nowhere and blindsides us by winning the tournament. Not a fan of it. And I've said in the opening sentence of my column for In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke that I never really was a fan of Roman Reigns, and I think that's the truest sentence I've ever written for one of my columns, which I've archived all the time for In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke on my website. Never really was a fan of Roman Reigns. I said that from the get-go when he was deemed the number one contender after winning the Royal Rumble. When he won the Royal Rumble, which was a ridiculous Royal Rumble in Philadelphia, man, the Philadelphia crowd was really all over him. That brings me back to January of this year. Even The Rock in there to put over Roman Reigns with a promo on WWE.com, and the fallout of a Survivor Series didn't get Roman Reigns over. So to say that Roman Reigns was over in that match would be a absolutely ridiculous assumption to make. I was against it from the get-go. I still am against it from now to this point, and I don't think that Roman Reigns being champion right now is really going to get over with wrestling fans or the wrestling community. The wrestling population is not really going to get into Roman Reigns. They'll probably get into Dean Ambrose more than they will Roman Reigns, because no matter if you like Dean Ambrose or not, no matter if you compare him to people like Brian Pillman or someone else of the past who I haven't compared Dean Ambrose to, the thing is, Dean Ambrose is really over right now. Dean Ambrose is getting the fan reaction. Dean Ambrose is getting the pop all the time. And when you look at the biggest reactions that people get for reviews on, ProWrestling.com or .net, Dean Ambrose always comes away with one of the biggest pops of the night. I always was a Dean Ambrose fan. I think he's been overshadowed enough. So to put him over in this tournament would be the perfect opportunity to create something out of Dean Ambrose. At least something good could probably be derived from the absence of Seth Rollins in the WWE, but only time will tell. That's the most precious commodity, like I've said time and time again, with professional wrestling, and we will see where we go from here. It's going to be an interesting and fun time to be a wrestling fan, so if you aren't, you should probably jump on the wrestling fan wagon, be it that we're just a couple of weeks away from Survivor Series, which we are providing you with complete coverage of on our website. Just keep checking back for up-to-the-minute news updates leading up to Survivor Series, exclusive photos, videos, radio broadcasts, podcasts. It's all here. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube at Jonathan Clarke 22. Don't forget to send us a tweet on Twitter at Jonathan Clarke 1. Get in touch with me on Facebook at HEW Entertainment. We are on Google Plus as well at the same. HEW Entertainment is where it's all going down. This week focusing on WWE's push of Roman Reigns. We've been talking about this pretty much for over at least 75% of the year. Because really, I've never really been a fan of Roman Reigns. I'll reiterate that sentence I used for the opening sentence of my column, which I recently archived, one of my more recent ones, on WWE's push of Roman Reigns and getting behind that superstar, because there are so many superstars. Here's my issue with this. There are so many superstars you can get behind rather than Roman Reigns. What happened to Bo Dallas? Bo Dallas is someone who's getting followers on Twitter all the time. He's got millions of followers on Twitter sharing the Bo Dallas photos of them wearing T-shirts, Bo Dallas merchandise, even dog tags people to purchase for their pets. Bo Dallas seems to be really over, and I know this because I'm following Bo on Twitter at Bo Dallas if you want to, or if you care to follow Bo Dallas. He's really over. Just as so many other superstars are over, like the Lucha Dragons when you talk about tag team wrestling, but they always keep going back to Roman Reigns, someone who can't produce. Not a big fan of this. Never was a big fan of Roman Reigns. Again, reiterating the sentence I used for one of my columns, one of the opening sentences of how I never was a fan of Roman Reigns, and I doubt I'm going to be at this point in Roman Reigns' career and his run with WWE, but we will see where we go from here. Only time will tell again. It's the most precious commodity. If I've said it 1,000 times, I think I can get away with saying at least one more time. We'll find out what time allows for Roman Reigns. Are you a fan of Roman Reigns? Let me know in the comments at Jonathan Clarke 22 by sending me a tweet on Twitter at Jonathan Clarke 1, hashtagging Roman Reigns or something along those lines, creative hashtags. are always appreciated. And on Facebook also, you can let me know at HEW Entertainment. Google Plus as well, HEW Entertainment, the same as our Facebook page. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show this week. The entrance music of Bo Dallas taking us out. And I will see you really soon. You're listening to HEW Entertainment Radio, home of radio show host and columnist Jonathan Clarke.